So I don't know why the baby boomers were such deceptive people. I don't know why they try to leverage controlling other people with deception. I don't understand it. I really don't. What I do know is, see that shop? There's a trailer in there. And that's where I've been staying. But do you see all this? This is out in an isolated location. For about a month and a half, I've had every conversation leveraged against me about my employment, because currently I'm unemployed. And I'm now going to be homeless in a week. Probably today. Because that is owned by a predator. An inappropriate predator. A man, but an inappropriate predator. I was treated inappropriately. He tried to force me to change my clothes in front of him. And didn't want to do that. You know why he asked me to do that? Because he felt entitled, and he felt like he could leverage my behavior to do something I didn't want to do against my own self-interest. And he thought he'd get away with it because I'm out in the middle of nowhere on his property. I went about 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And then I told someone in the church community I've been going to. That person said they didn't believe me. Then they reported to the pastor, who the predator, Martin Sheeran, has a close relationship with. And they had a meeting where they asked me a bunch of pretty direct questions about whether or not I was telling the truth in a closed room with the man I accused of being a predator in the same room. So that pretty much put me in a position where I didn't feel safe while being questioned and blamed for being the person who was treated inappropriately. Then the next day, I was questioned by his wife. I told her it was the truth. I told the pastor it was the truth. I went another day, and then I was asked by the person at the church community who I told spouse why I did that. I said I really just was explaining why I wasn't joining in a prayer group because it made me feel uncomfortable. And the person asked for an explanation why. So I told the truth. I was told that was an inappropriate thing to say to a person's spouse. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. By the end of the church service yesterday, the person who told me, hey, shouldn't be saying that to my spouse, was apologizing to me. Because I think they were like, oh, I mean, maybe it wasn't inappropriate to report being treated with abuse. Maybe we're just all not willing to believe that this person would isolate someone in the middle of nowhere and then try to get away with abusing them. Obviously, these people have no common sense whatsoever. No common sense whatsoever. None of them are going, this person is leveraging every single action they have done to force me into silence about how I was treated. And they're forcing me, no, they're trying to leverage my behavior so that I have no one to turn to other than a predator. Now, every single day for the last month and a half, every single day, every conversation has been about my health, my politics, my religious beliefs. The merits of my past completely don't matter at all. Every single conversation is dominated by the opinion that I'm a bad guy and I need to change to fit this person's specific belief in God. I could have the exact same belief as that person in the conversation, and I'm still being treated wrong. I'm still being treated bad. And I'm just going, oh. It didn't matter what I said or did. This person only has some satisfaction in life if somebody is made miserable. And Martin Sheeran is only satisfied and happy, A, when he makes someone miserable, and B, when he's gotten away with making someone miserable. That's been my last month and a half. It's been depressing. But every single day, I am out here talking to no one. And then the only way I really could reasonably get to town was through Martin. Which means not only I was under his control of what I could do based on my travel, B, I could not confront him for his predatory behavior. As it was shown literally today, one day after a church service about Christmas, about community, about charity, where the church fed the entire church congregation a free meal, Martin's like, I'm spending way too much letting this person stay in a trailer cheaply, basically captive, to no cost to him, really. He's a greedy, evil man who is now, despite his greed and evil, is really, really scared. People are also going to find out he's a predator. I pointed out to Martin, you know what? I got questioned at church. Why? I said that to someone's spouse and they said it was inappropriate. So I apologized. And then I mentioned by the end of the church service, they were apologizing to me. And Martin even had the absolute lying behavior to ask me, well, why did they apologize to you? So I responded with a rhetorical question. I don't know. Why were they apologizing? Maybe they came to the real, right, correct, truthful conclusion, which was I was asking for help after being asked to say honestly why I wouldn't join a prayer group with Martin that evening. It's because the less time I spend with him, the better my mental health is going to be. Because he doesn't let me speak my mind. And he's not just not letting me speak my mind under the threat of my own life. He doesn't let me speak my mind under the threat of my own life. Not just to protest, being kept out in the middle of nowhere. Being treated like I deserve to be homeless, and if I don't get employment immediately, I deserve the harassment and danger of homelessness. But also that I'm just too stupid to realize that, yeah, I'm basically being backed into a corner. I'm basically having all my decisions I would make for myself being leveraged against me. By an old man who does not want what's healthy or best for me, but he wants to get away with predatory behavior in the middle of nowhere. He didn't have anything to say when I said, what were they apologizing for? He didn't have the right to say, no, he didn't have the honesty to say, because I treated you predatorily. He hasn't had the honesty to say, you're not getting a job not because you don't work hard, because you have worked all day at any given task I've asked you to do, paid or unpaid. Paid or unpaid. But because you're a mile away, you're an hour's walk away from the closest bus stop. No car, no bicycle. Also, you have to walk through a desert next to a freeway. It's literally every single day. I thought it was just, helping a kind of forgetful, innocent, religious, spiritual man. As also someone who was kind-hearted enough to help me into a livable shelter for the first time in months. Turns out now, my patience at the behavior he exhibits has been a level of ignorance I don't even know I could communicate. Because you know what? I shared that I was starting a long-distance friendship with somebody. And that was where he became a parody of his own life. Because he's literally a version of a parent from television that's without a doubt a villain. He is a literal daytime television villain. Because parents and authority figures and role models that relate towards abusive parental figures or authority figures that abuse people that use telecommunications, computer communications, cell phones to create a friendship that's long distance, to connect with people long distance, are going, oh yeah, these people have the right to abuse anybody that lives under their roof because they're the ones who are paying for anything. This is without a doubt, the laziest depiction of evil has ever existed on any media. Because that's half the story. You know, people who are, especially younger people in this country, who are almost completely reliant on technology to communicate, are not lazy. They're not unintelligent, and they're not lazy. They are 100% some of the most abused people in our nation, in our country, in the world. You ever seen the new Judge Dredd? A group of criminals were taking advantage of somebody who could operate telecommunications and computers. And that person was completely a threatened and abused individual. 100%. Almost scared into shock at being able to ask for help, to report the criminal and abusive behavior that person was being treated with. You understand? Those daytime villain parental and authority figures that abuse computer using United States citizens watch that and they go, wait, what about the part of the story of before they used their computer? What aren't we seeing? Oh, we're not seeing this parental and authority figure abusing the people who use these computers before they even had a computer. So Martin is 100% trying to go, oh, you're wasting time, spending too much time with a girl on the phone. And his spouse, who's probably as controlled as any of his past victims, is going, yeah, he should be out making money. Not talking to somebody who's long distance. Nobody is going, that's the only person he trusts to talk to. Because Martin completely isolated him. Martin completely isolated me for asking for help. I was told the cops were going to be called on me for reporting that Martin gives me the creeps. And his wife wanted to basically interrogate me. And she literally sat back and watched her husband threaten to call the cops on me for using my First Amendment right of the freedom of speech to tell the truth of how I'm being treated. Whew. That's some crazy. You know why Martin wants to say it's a waste of time for me to meet someone long distance? Because he also wants to say it's a waste of time for me to meet anyone in real life. Because he wants to get in my pants. He wants to take sexual advantage of me. He wants to do predatory stuff to me. I mentioned to the pastor, I'm interested in a woman. You know what Martin hasn't let me do even once? Socialize with the chance of talking to anyone my own age that isn't a group of men. This dude is this evil predator man 100% is trying to groom me into a homosexual slave for him. That's why he's criticizing the first friend I literally honestly told him about. It was a obvious test to see if he was going to get jealous and controlling at the reality that I'm not a homosexual. So I don't accept his advances. I reject them. I've heard more over the last month about his interpretation of the most important thing about religion. That through a relationship with his understanding of God, which is himself, an old man, I will get to heaven, or people can get to heaven. He's not saying being honest or following the 10 Commandments is what is going to, or following the law. It's going to keep me alive, keep me healthy, keep me safe, keep me morally intact through my life. No, he is just actually trying to leverage me into a position where I accept his predatory advances. And he won't leave me alone. He won't leave me alone about it. He will not leave me alone about it. It's been bugging me. My father told me, don't trust a clergyman, a priest, a pastor, a minister. Don't trust them. In fact, most people nowadays seem to go to the courthouse if they're going to arrange marriage. They do not arrange it through a church or religious authority. My father absolutely warned me that clergymen in the United States are predatory, they are invasive, and they try to erase the lessons, history, and memory of people and their families. Martin says he's a pastor. Martin is trying to get me to believe he's my father. He's trying to get me to believe God was my father. And he completely disregards the fact I say, I know who my father was. His name was Stephen Richard Balaj, my biological father. Was he controlling? overwhelmingly controlling? Yes. But was he a sexual predator? No. He would never, ever force me to change my clothes in front of him. If I felt uncomfortable, he outright told me that is inappropriate behavior. I don't know why Martin thought that was anything short of abusive. But I do know he must have some premeditated plan to get away with it, because that is why he put me out on this property of his in the middle of nowhere. And I think the people who have questioned me, Pastor Glenn and Martin's wife, should be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely ashamed of themselves. I believe that the fact that they treated me like I'd done something wrong for telling the truth, and what's worse, as to ignore the fact I didn't feel safe enough to report it immediately to anyone, because it was very embarrassing and very creepy, and I was in the middle of nowhere. Do you see how long I've been walking? Do you see how long it takes me to walk to anywhere where there's other people? Oh, this would not have an effect on any of you? Where you would start feeling like, oh yeah, I have no one to turn to but the person who drives me out from the middle of nowhere into town, into civilization. None of you would have been like, oh yeah, this person is cutting me off from having access to travel because they want to control your behavior when they do something predatory towards you. Because if you were, in town or close to neighbors, maybe you might go over to a neighbor's house and ask for help. And then their predatory plan would cease very quickly. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't believe the absolute horsepucky BS. Cruel stuff. Cruel shit. At the fact that I feel just exhausted by the end of the day from being around Martin, this man who has enjoyed picking on me and did predatory behavior as another reason for him to pick on me and do predatory behavior. I haven't applied to work in the few hours I have to myself, because by the end of the evenings, because that's when I can charge my phone, that's when I can talk to some people who were my own age. Talk to some people who were nice. Talk to at least someone who doesn't seem like they're afraid to speak up for themselves. Talk to somebody who at least isn't Martin. And I'm being told hey, I'm enabling you because you haven't found work. Not, oh, literally everybody who has done any research on patterns of behavior by people who've gone through trauma would go, hey, Daniel seems like he's gone through trauma recently. And he seems like he's too tired to engage in socializing activity, like finding work, like he's afraid to talk to other people, even though making money will give him access to life outside of relying on Martin. Nobody's going, oh no, Martin's just getting away with abusing this man. And that was everybody's reaction since they've heard about it, except for the guy whose spouse I told. His reaction was, I'm going to talk to you about why that's inappropriate. I looked him in the eye and asked him, are you going to ask me if it's true? Are you going to ask me if what I said was true? Not judge whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate. Are you going to ask me if I was asking for help and I needed help? By the end of the church service, the man was apologizing to me. And I was saying, it's okay. You don't have to apologize. I was really saying, hey, you thought you were protecting your wife, your family, your church community, and you thought I was the bad guy because you're like 100% like me. You never suspected Martin was this predator. I'm just going, hey, it's okay. Because, I believe the best in people, but I'm just going, spending the last 30 minutes talking about this kind of just unbelievable behavior, because I'm just going, really? It's 2025. This isn't like the 1950s where we're pretending like abusive and predatory behavior doesn't happen in the United States. It's not reported. There hasn't been a history of reports. Like, these people literally were told, just like I was, how you treat people in this kind of situation. You don't blame the victim. And that's what they immediately did. They blamed me, the victim of predatory behavior, for speaking up about it. That's what they did. They blamed me. That's what the man at the church was apologizing for. He was apologizing for blaming me, the victim, for being the victim of predatory behavior. That's ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. Like I said, this isn't the 1950s. This is a disappointment. They should be disappointed. I should be disappointed. But I should have been believed immediately. I should have been believed. And now I'm going to essentially immediately lose the closest thing to a safe residence the closest thing to a safe residence. Because of a predator. If that isn't... If that isn't just the most disappointing thing in itself as well, I don't know what is.